Every human on Earth has their own individuality, unique fingerprint and consciousness on this Earth. I pondered about identity for a while, and truth be told, it's wacko coco loco puffs. Pure insanity when you think of it. Why? Well, I don't really know, to be honest, but the other day I came across a quote while overlooking an old book, and it marked me. It stated black on white, "We are not our feelings, we are not our moods, we are not even our thoughts." It startled me. Like, really? What in the bloody hell? Am I the only one finding this citation kind of awkward? It made me wonder even harder, who are we then? Mere mortals, humans, or cute aliens to the extraterrestrial? Mind-boggling when we think deeper about it, isn't it? It's a real iceberg with infinite layers of history. So as usual in my podcasts, I may come in terms with a few answers or concepts which you may or may not think about at first concerning the subject matter. Subject matter being identity here. And the incentive behind this little conversation with me is to feed your thought process more than anything else, to be able to travel with me through space and time and just be one with nature somehow, at peace. Food for thoughts type thing. I'm not preaching. I know you saw the title. You already acknowledge what I think about this topic. To me, identity is just wild, fiercer than some other concept in some ways. Therefore, I've split my thought process into 6 distinctive sections where I decipher my point of view to the question of, who are we really? Before diving into the more spiritual, philosophical, and psychological aspect of my content, let's just clear the air with the more academical aspect of the subject. The simple definition of identity can be dissected to 2 interpretations in matters of sociology or psychology. Socially speaking, there's 4 facets to it. Firstly, there's our personal identity. It encapsulates the demographic, social, and cultural factors which affect our human interactions, like our name or birthplace. Secondly, the role identity, which is a theory of our specific role in a group setting and social position. Thirdly, there's the social identity, a self-concept. It englobes your personality, affecting your interactions through meaningful social groups or organizations. And finally, the collective identity as a social movement, where your character develops through the lens of a group's consciousness or a shared sense of identity. Let's say if you are in an organization, for example, you're part of a collective identity. If you're in a if you are in a humanitarian type of group to help animals, then you're part of that collective identity. You have a shared sense of it. Whereas psychologically, our identity is something we have nearly no control over, as it could morph into time and evolve. It's about recognition and emotion. Now that we have discovered or refreshed our ideas on the multiple features characterizing parts of our identity, To the depths of my scary brains we shall go, my piranha. The delirious Maneki Neko of absurdity. Thinking about the purpose or true meaning of life to me is like welcoming more absurdity into my damaged consciousness. And who we are or might be is even more demented. It leads to what seems to be a subconscious dimension with even more question. And more questions to ask. For example, what drives us? Why are we here? Why do we suffer? Why do we love? Can reincarnation be real? And all of these reminds me of this particular tale which I love a lot. Have you ever seen the anime Spirited Away? I thought that this story might be inspiring for this conversation about identity we are having here. Long story short, it's about a girl named Chihiro who stumbled upon a world full of magic, wonder, and spirits. Like the other side, a darker one filled with beautiful colors and textures, surrounded by water. Water which is compelling to this graceful tale symbolism, which we will see later on. In the narrative, Chihiro's parents get trapped and turned into pigs in this other dimension. They fell as praise to their own hunger and greed against free delicious food in the world of spirits. Leading to these circumstances, the little girl was alone in the unknown. She met Haku, a nice boy who guides her for her own safety into a bathhouse owned by the sorceress Yubaba, where he tells her to insist in getting a job there, so as she would be less exposed to dangers and might be protected. Resulting to her work contract, she loses her real name and was given a new one as anyone else in the spirit realm. Sen, which means 1000. She lost her identity and had been given a new one. But now, let's focus on the parts which inspires me the most here. This animation is more intriguing and magnificent to me because of two main components. The first one is her connection with a character named No Face. He has no identity. He wears a mask as if to say, "Hey, I exist," to others. He is all alone, doesn't utter a word. He observes and lurks when you least expect it. He is a mysterious creature. We don't know who or what he may be. Perhaps a spirit, one which doesn't acquire high or low qualities of virtue, yet he is nothing. Or at least it feels like he feels almost invisible to the other spirits. Abstract. Like an outcast. And in the movie he appears to desire to get closer to Chihiro, as she is different than anyone else. She acknowledged, noticed, and welcomed him with a care and loving faith, thinking he was just another ordinary customer. Being refused a token to activate a bath for a client by one of the employees, our protagonist eventually got lucky with No Face kindness. He gave her a valuable token, allowing her to proceed in doing her job. When No Face saw that she was grateful in receiving this kind of gesture by him, he searched for more tokens to get her attention, to receive altruism and eventually company from her, so as he wouldn't be a stranger anymore, because any normal worker at the bathhouse has that money-grabbing, very greedy personality. They all want gold, they all want more tokens, so why wouldn't she, right? But what's fascinating here about this is how scary No-Face can be. Chihiro refused his offer of numerous tokens as she needed only one. She doesn't care about the materialistic aspect of things. No-Face knew that she was unique compared to the cash cow ravishing gluttony persona of the others. His obsession for her increased and deepened. She might be starting to lose her identity in this spiritual realm, but she definitely has individuality. He got sad. 8 workers who were lured by the gold he produced. Interestingly enough, he absorbed the characteristic of the people he ate. He was consumed by their psyche, temperament, and sins. Eventually, he got angry and resentful, just as much as the bittersweet laborers he devoured. He wasn't able to get the object of his desire, a distinctive special identity, a soul as Chihiro. He was reborn into a monster, destroying everything in his way to get her. Precious gold worked to arouse the interest of anyone, except her. No-Face did not acquire just one identity back then. He tasted the blood of many. The absurdity of grating anyone's flaws and state of mind into his body and mind. It makes me think of us, about how crazy it is to just be and exist in our time and days. With the rise of the internet and social media presence, everybody can be someone, and yet anybody just keep trying and striving to become someone, it seems. By affiliation or by collaborations, somehow. We consume and absorb so much information on a day-to-day basis compared to our ancestors. We have a fire of knowledge, multiple sources of data to our fingertips. It could drive anyone insane if you're not careful. You have to know what you allow in, what is the nature of intelligence you are allowing into your cerebrum. Cerebrum just means brain for those who might not understand. I like to use synonyms because I don't want to sound repetitive. And that's all. Big words. I still sound dumb though. Anyways. It reminds me of the theory of matter versus form of Aristotle, also known as hylomorphism. The matter is your body and your soul is the form. Read this. For Plato, forms such as beauty are more real than any object that imitate them. Though the forms are timeless and unchanging like our souls, physical things are in constant change of existence, like our body, where forms are unqualified perfection. Physical things are qualified and conditioned. Our soul is a substance in the sense of a form of a natural body having life potentially within it. The soul is transcendent to our world of substance. It is pure. I like that in Spirited Away. The main character is a 10-year-old girl. Chihiro is still a child transitioning into a new world, adapting and growing without choice. Yet she already has the soul of a young lady to be. She has better values than any other workers in the bathhouse. Would you just look at those pretty sparks? I just adore this animation. Luckily, another thing to be grateful about is that, unlike poor children from third world countries, our childhood was mainly about joy, innocence, and creativity rather than difficulty, most of the times. The more we spend years on this earth, the more we experience things such as grief, sadness, love, loss, and many other things. It changes us, but the core of our personality, when we were just children, our nature, I believe it still stays the same and it shapes us. Nature here meaning the essential properties and causes of individual things. Your soul is perfection. It cannot be tamed. It's raw. Personally, the more I grow up, the more I realize that I'm still the same child that I used to be years ago. To the core. I've already overlooked briefly my personality in another podcast, so I won't repeat myself. But now I am an artist with a pretty childlike personality. And I don't know about the others, but I think that once we exist and have a consciousness, we already are imbued by the existence we are soaked in, as if we were in a trance. It will always be up to you to choose which morals you want to believe in, who you want to be, which information you want to gobble up like the spirit no-face, which personality trait you believe to be inspiring to you or to the others, for you to acquire. But live for you, because life isn't about finding yourself. It's about creating yourself. This is really important. Everything is absurd here. You might just as well greet faith into your life. Let hope be a part of your life. Do not let it die. Don't waste your time trying to think about who you might be, what your identity truly is. Just create a version of yourself which you could be proud of. The matter, your body, can always change, but the form, your soul will always be beautiful. And if you don't believe in that, then know that to me, your soul will always be beautiful. Authorize itself to communicate through you. Breathe. No-Face tried to please the others with gold. It ended up being poof, magic, nothing valuable. He was submerged by the inevitable, the ghost of greediness, and it left him with a shallow, empty feeling and taste on his tongue. Greed will always create more greed. Sins will always invite more sins. Create yourself for you. Who do you want to be? The leopard, the lion, or the she-wolf? I referenced once or twice briefly Dante's Infernos before, and because I'm kind of fascinated by it, and tonight I want to focus on this particular interpretation of hell. Again, I am not a religious being at all, but I just love to study beliefs and the overall messages, aka also known as the morals of religions. It's interesting and even endearing sometimes. Like I said previously too, I refer to God as the universe of multiverses. Whatever you believe in, it's okay with me. You cute, no matter what. To me, honestly. Got the little play on words I did there? I play a lot with words whenever I write or speak. Whenever. All the time, honestly. Psh. I said matter as in the metaphysical aspect of this term, not as the matter in obstacle or difficulties. Duh. Okay, it's not that funny. Anyways. Let's just look at that drawing really quick. According to Dante, we human beings are meant to dwell after our deaths in a special kind of hell if our identity contains characteristics such as a sinner's. Violence, bestiality, and cold-blooded misdemeanors hypocrites, falsifiers, and blasphemers. Haven't we all already twisted the truth when we were just at a young age to get out of trouble? Has unbridled passion never aspired many artists to produce profound, charming work of arts? In the end, is our identity truly a reflection of our wrongdoings? Aren't we just mere mortals in the end, with flaws and beauty? Sometimes I get sad because people might misinterpret me, and it's as if like I could be perfect all the time, but I make one error and bam. Aren't our soul just a reflection of creation, which is perfection in itself? We are not perfect. Dante knew that for sure. This is why the theme of equilibrium between reason and faith is one of the core messages in Inferno. Without hope, dreams, and faith, our intellect is not sufficient to achieve our full potential in releasing ourselves from the consequences of the things that could potentially harm us. And Dante also meant that the misuse of our own reason and core values can often lead to danger for ourselves. Just know, no matter who you are, who you aspire to be, who you trust yourself to be, or what you believe in right in this moment, when your intentions are pure, never stress yourself about anything or anyone. You just have to know that you will be where you're supposed to be, and that it's respectfully never your last. Don't stress about others' action when you know you're yearning for love, stability, peace, and so much more. Control your actions and have faith. Proceed. I love to nurture my brain with the huge loving pieces of what is left of my heart. There's a vibration, a frequency of innocence that I kept over the years, regardless of the immense pain I had to deal with. So I might sound stupid to you. I might have childlike traits. I might be easy to manipulate because I would give you a chance in making me trust you. And I also might be in my own world, but I harness my integrity since forever. It helps me to stay as pure and raw as I could be, and also for my art to mirror this aspect of my individuality. When it comes to identity, the Japanese say you have 3 faces. The first face you show to the world, the second face you show to your close friends and your family. The third face you never show anyone. It is the truest reflection of who you are. This is why I like to ask, so who are you when no one is watching? But nobody truly answers. Now, I've already talked about how everyone has a version of you ingrained in their consciousness before, so I won't share this thought and story with you again. But here's something new that I learned. If you feel ugly, imperfect, I know that I do feel that way for a ridiculous, never-ending amount of time for someone as cute as me, but if you feel unattractive, here's a sweet piece of information for you. Remember that there is a Japanese legend that says, your face is the visage of a person you loved the most in your past life. In your eyes back then, the face you see in the mirror was the one you most adored. I don't know about reincarnation and stuff. I have to research about it someday, but I just thought this was adorable. Maybe we could talk about it in another podcast with more heavier stuff and more deeper stuff, but I think it's a lovely way to see our matter, our body. It has that spark, it has that oomph. That's deep to think about. Something to nibble on during rainy nights. See, whatever your physique reveals about your identity is not totally the truth or a lie. Because our matter, bodies and consciousness were corrupted in a sense. In this society, like I probably said in my podcast, what is real? Even our form, souls, could be misinterpreted sometimes, and it scares me to talk now because I don't know who might miscalculate my intentions, which I personally see and believe to be pure. For instance, in this old podcast, someone could have just not understood what I meant and thought I meant that love was not real as a conclusion of what I said. How harsh. I never uttered these words. It's all I preach about, love, so how could you even think that? And I always express this to myself, that love transcends space and time. Our soul transcends our anatomy. This is why we can get up and force ourselves to go to the gym, to alter our shape, to become a better version of ourselves. And this is why I adore speaking up about faith, to motivate others in a sense, to inspire. There is no real leopard, lion, or she-wolf tendencies to us in our nature. Of course, some particular identities are very vile because of how their programming was made, scientifically, with their upbringing and mentally speaking. But these cases are usually sociopathic, insensitive, and superficial. It doesn't mean they are no more or less human than us. It simply means that their form is peculiar and delicate to deal with. But if you're here, you're strong and kind. You can outrank just about anything. It's okay not to be perfect. I love you for who you are and everything you can or aspire to be. Osho said, people who are spiritually minded tend to suffer from anxiety and depression more. You know why? Because their eyes are open to a world in need of repair. They literally have an increased ability to feel the emotions of people around them. If you weren't special, you wouldn't be wasting your time trying to comprehend whatever it is that I'm struggling to say right now. I have been spending days on end trying to find the right words to communicate with you. I know that you are spiritually minded. I know we belong to the same soul family. I know how powerful you can be. You know what else transcended its own matter and served its bloody purpose? Le Cheval de Troie. The more options you let yourself have towards whatever it is that you might want, the more these alternatives would have less value. More options equal to less value. What do you truly want? Is it for your own person or for the eyes of others? The more questions you ask yourself, the more queries you will attract back. I connect these occurrences with an allegory as le Cheval de Troie, the Trojan horse. I believe that any pathways could lead to multiple hidden roads, filled with surprise and wonder. You just have to flow with life and nature. Your determination just have to somehow be distilled and immune to the disreputable influence of external forces, like the mass mind's negation. We need to recognize that anger, fear, and gloom in mass consciousness can subtly infect our mood and outlook. The chaos in mass consciousness can be a primary cause for your irritability, pessimism, and anxiety. For this reason, we need to learn to protect ourselves from these influences by building boundaries for protecting our well-being and mental health. The Trojans believed a huge wooden horse was a peace offering to their gods by the Greeks, and thus a symbol of their victory after a long siege, I don't know how to say the word, in war. The giant wooden horse was left at the gates of Troy and pulled into the middle of the city. They didn't realize that the Greeks had hidden a selected group of soldiers inside the horse. After the Trojans had gone to bed, the Greek soldiers inside the horse were able to get out and open the gates of the city. Taking the Trojans by surprise in the middle of the night, the Greeks were able to finally conquer Troy. Today, the term Trojan horse is still used to refer to any kind of deception or trick that involves getting a target willingly to allow an enemy into a secure place. Duplicity can bear life from trauma. Even in its purest form, the soul is imperfectly perfect. And even if every being on this earth do possess one, some people's identity will still be meanly related to the treacherous vice because everyone is selfish in trying to protect themselves, ready to get their claws out, or anybody's just ready to fight for what they believe in, regardless sometimes of their own virtues or common sense. We humans are stupid as fudge. Our intelligence doesn't necessarily help us to go in the right direction. As Albert Einstein said, we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. Interestingly enough, we tend to question our belief systems, and that itself could build a lot of character. To just take a step back and contemplate in all simplicity is key. Just don't question every damn thing like I did. Don't forget, we are out of time, my piranha. You've got to make the most of it and be yourself, or who you want to be. Alan Watts once said, "We are always thinking that the satisfaction of life will be coming later. Don't kid yourself." Which is to say only, suckers put hope in the future. I do understand what he meant, because he's telling you to act now or you never will. You need to have hope, but at the same time, you shouldn't just rely on hope. I stumbled upon a TikTok the other day of a random guy named Almost Alias, I think. His content might be about philosophy. I don't know. But he revealed a train of thought of his that I found stimulating. I noted it down for me to read it to you. He said that when he was doing a religious deconstruction, he asked himself, why does God decide to communicate through literature? Something which is in its nature very interpretative within the numerous amounts of Christian denominations or any religions for that matter, where believers practice very different things based off their own interpretation of what is more or less the same text, and the very idea that there is a God who gave them a word to live by. You can replace God by whatever entity you believe in or not, as long as you're comfortable. Whatever you want, my piranha. but the intended meaning behind his question made him reflect and say, either God is omnipotent because he didn't have the ability to create a means of communicating with humanity that is immune to misinterpretation or, even as we see, historical abuse. Or he is not omniscient because he didn't know that this method of communicating with his words would lead to suffering, or at best, conflict. And if he knows these things, then he is omnibenevolent, knowing that his own word and a misinterpretation and abuse of his word would lead to suffering, pain, and conflict. So I reflected on that, and I believe it's just a notion to think about for you. I do not believe that it is totally true or wrong to think like that or to say this like he said it, which is the reason why I shared this with you. I detect any sort of cogitation to be worthy at being heard, especially if it concerns philosophy, science, and art. The numbers of Greek soldiers in our Trojan horse could be infinite, a real aggregate of problems to solve, complications which we created ourselves. That's why when you have no brain, you have no pain. There's so many layers and elements that constitutes our lifestyle. It could drive anyone deranged. Distinguish yourself from others. Embark in the path of least resistance. There will always be deception as long as blood runs through the veins of any mortals in here. But as Dante suggested, in De Monarchia, man is both generated and created. Man's physical generation results in his corruptibility and temporality. Man's creation provides an incorruptible and eternal soul. Aim for happiness. Exercise your own powers. What is your potentiality? Do you have any particular personality trait that could mold and structure the power of your individuality? You could be surprised or deceived by life sometimes, like with the Trojan horse to the Trojans and Greeks. You have to, and I counsel you to anticipate and let go. Stay kind. You've got to go deeper within. The clear quartz iceberg. Occasionally it seems to me that I could be drowning in folly. We are swamped by labels, manipulative consciousnesses and paradoxes from left to right. It's exhausting, perplexing. You know what else is even more crippling for some individuals about their identity? They can develop numerous personalities due to heavy trauma, and no, not the kind that you could even imagine or apprehend. I will link a video below about a sweet lady that has DID, the dissociative identity disorder. It's a mental health condition. Someone with DID has multiple distinct personalities. The various identities control a person's behavior at different times. The condition can cause memory loss, delusions, or depression even. If you'll care to watch it, the sweet girl named Nin explained very eloquently how it is to suffer from this jumble rumble wumble. This is a word I just created. It just means that it's, oh my god, complicated. A jumble ramble wumble. I remember years ago watching videos on her channel after seeing her from Padilla's interview. She's very lovely and atypical. On a spectrum of intensities, human beings can be so fragile, beautiful, and vulnerable, and yet some could be just cutthroat, uncharitable, and greedy. Sometimes when you have the energy and the means, despite feeling low, try to be more of a humanitarian. Helping others and caring about their welfare can be a source of satisfaction and even of great inspiration for you and for other people. You could literally make or break someone with just one smile, a few words. Just do it. The experience of being you is the knowledge of structured consciousness. Your self-paradigm, self-awareness are, how to say that, backscattered. They're backscattered through the lens of everything around us. We can do nothing about it. We are multiple versions of ourselves according to the conditions we are undergoing. Which is why some thinkers rather say that identity doesn't really matter. Survival does. And I claim that in my podcast, Fear and Abstraction, in other words. Do you know how many times in my life I had to be altering my own form, my own soul and core values only to protect myself because I had no one to make me feel as safe as I wanted to be? I hate thinking, okay, let me show less love or let me not care so much because you don't express your compassion to me, or because I might be scared that you don't have as much affection for me as I do for you. I despise that feeling. I should never have to feel that way. My purest form is caring hard for the people who appear and want to reside in my life and loving them unconditionally. I was born to love you, so let me. Sometimes, when I'm not there for the beings that I love in my life, most of the times it is due to me not being able to, because of my mental health, but also because I want to leave a resonance and echo in how I might perceive them to be. I want them to reflect and act however they want to, accordingly to what and to how they respond to me. I don't want nobody to change for me. I never asked anyone in my life to do so, because I don't expect much, and I've learned that the hard way. But I need constant reassurance, and if I don't have it, then I'm not there completely. And it's not like a validation thing. It's more of you might have had a hard time communicating with me, and I have a hard time in understanding your love language, if there is any to begin with. You know, it can be hard to grasp some human's interpretation of whatever the hell is happening, and it just makes the iceberg pierce in a more profound way. You're not alone if you don't catch on what other living beings are, or if you alter pieces of yourself due to the questions they arouse in you, or to suit their needs only because you love them. You might tell yourself sometimes, if they loved me, I wouldn't even be asking myself this question. Making you feel less than what you are. Like, I get you completely, but like you actually want to build vulnerability, trust, and communication somehow, even when you have no idea how to. If we look at another person, we might think that they have everything figured out. when you struggle to get what you want because of your programmed subconsciousness, which is telling you, oops, seems that this is not for you. But it's no secret that nobody truly got it figured out. Since the beginning of this podcast, I told you that I fell in love with two main components of the story of Spirited Away. So I will tell you what the second factor is. Chihiro was guided by Haku ever since she stepped into this other dimension. And it is so drop-dead gorgeous. He knew her name before she told him. How? Over there, she was reduced to only Sen, 1,000 amongst many unworthy employees. But he knew her. He recognized her. It is very special. There's an elegant theory which holds the truth that maybe Haku is actually the girl's older brother, who died when she was little, saving her from the depth of a river. And along this thematic, this theme, water surrounds this whole magnificent world. It's everywhere. It's an interpretation of maybe the sinking emotions, because water represents emotions, depth. Since the beginning of the movie, it makes sense for both of them to care deeply about each other as soon as they laid eyes on each other. I love this story so much. The resentment a parent could have for you when you're simply lost, the immense bond you have, and this connection you can't destroy through lives on end with a special someone. It's very delicate and beautiful. But what's more shattering in this story is how Haku forgot what an angel he actually is, how beautiful he is. He didn't even remember his name. He was nothing, beat up. He fought so hard. But he remembered her name. He knew her, and when Chihiro told him that she finally recalled his name, he collapsed in millions of pieces, knowing finally what his identity was about. It's truly heartbreaking, but it's so damn beautiful. The film's theme song, Ano hi no Kawa, which literally translates to the river that day, kind of accentuate the reality of this familiar, raw, intense connection. I'm gonna read it to you. You know I'm a little bit of a poet. From a sunlit backyard, through a forgotten wooden door, along a path shaded by a hedge, the little girl running from afar is me. Sopping wet and crying, we pass each other, following the footprints in the sandpit, even further, to the river that's buried now. Water plants between the garbage are swaying. In that small river I met you. My shoe slowly washes away and disappears, wrapped up in a small whirlpool. The dirt that conceals my heart clears. The fog that conceals my eyes vanishes. My hands touch the air. My feet catch the earth's rebound. Me, who is living because of someone who was living for me. I went to the river that day. I went to your river. True love at last isn't simply fleeting. The German philosopher Adorno has written that you are loved when you can show vulnerability, To truly love someone is to say, you don't have to be perfect all the time. You can show me your weaknesses. You're imperfectly perfect. Sometimes there will be hard days and challenges, but we will overcome everything together. Allow ourselves to be vulnerable. I know you perhaps even better than you know yourself. The fractions and parts of yourself that you hide or hate about yourself, from the core to your bones, in the middle of it all. I want to kiss and love every piece of you which you loathe. If you're truly mine, your pain and blood is mine too now. But again, the characteristic of others, their identity can compel us to change our matter. The brain, for instance, but they cannot truly change the form. Our soul, the heart we've grown with, our spirit. In the movie Split, which I recommend to watch, I understand why human beings who suffer from DID might not like this movie, though, because the community might be misrepresented, as if they were crazy killers, kidnappers, or no highly functional members of society. In reality, someone could suffer from this disorder and you might never know. They might have multiple personalities. They might struggle with their mental health, unless we tell you honestly. But I love a movie personally, and I respect and love everyone and everyone's opinion. I wouldn't like art to hurt someone or to feel like they're mocked. I didn't feel like in this movie they mocked people who had this disease. Because I feel like the movie is unlike, very special and intense. I think the acting by McAvoy is great, even iconic with the meme Patricia. So basically the story is that there is our protagonist, Kevin, James McAvoy, who has 23 personalities. He has DID. There remains one of his persona which submerged out of the blue, who is set to materialize and dominate all of the others through the trauma. It calls itself the Beast. He felt compelled to abduct 3 teenage girls led by the willful, observant Casey. And Kevin reaches a war for survival among all of these identities contained within him, as well as everyone around him, as the walls between his compartments shatter. The message behind the film is pretty simple. Your trauma is your superpower. This is the main theme of Split, and to be honest, it's a troubling one. As in, the Beast tried to eat and consume the body of his prey to gain more energy and momentum with these girls, those victims. All of his other personalities had different characteristics, and the voices, ages, sexes are all different and spectacular as any person with DID. It also shows you how a grown old man could have a child as his persona, because it took the light and talked through him. And next thing you know, he's back to being the polite old woman called Patricia, who protects most of every aspect of him. It's voiced most clearly at the end by a literal predator. The Beast who tells Casey that she's pure because of what she's endured at the hands of others in her past. He has let her go as he saw her scars on the body, This movie made me cry just as much as seeing people like Nin suffering and doing their best to cope with everything. They truly are pure. And by the way, it's part of my identity to be crying and while watching sad movies. And sometimes it's so damn annoying, I swear to God, it's so damn annoying. Like, I could be watching a movie with my mom and my oldest sister on the couch, and then it's sad, it gets sad, and I'll be crying, and they'll be looking at me. Listen, I'm badass. I don't... This is so annoying how people love to watch me cry because they never see me cry. But while watching movies, like, I don't like to show myself, I hide myself. I'm so badass, I can't allow myself to cry in front of others. I just know it's healthy to cry. I'm just talking about myself, but they can't see that. It's so annoying. They're like, oh my God, boo-hoo-hoo. They don't cry. They have no heart while watching movies. But I cry the hell out of my life. It's so annoying. And nobody watches scary movies with me. It's part of my identity to watch something scary and to not budge. Like, why they can't meet me halfway in my own territory. Like, okay, if I cry during sad movies and you can't, then it's fine. But let's try to see if you don't get scared for once while watching a scary movie. While I don't budge and while I enjoy it. Then I will watch your faces. They don't really have the guts it takes to watch a scary movie with me anyways. Nobody watches scary movies with me. Okay. Anyways. Just don't tell anyone that I cry while watching some movies. And we're good, my piranha. Come on, give me a kiss. Okay. Let's continue. See, a lot of things can change you. From whatever it is that I explain, with the people that have DID, with traumatic experiences, some people who hurt really bad in a way that you can't even imagine, develops new personalities. Their brains are amazing, and those personalities are developed to protect them and solely for that purpose. I believe that no identity is truly fixed in space and time. We shape ourselves every day. The matter and the form and others low-key influence that too. Sometimes it all boils down to simple survival. I recollected a memory of me being at a party, for instance. And I wasn't that drunk. It was my cousin's party. And there was that one lean, junky guy who was over there, who always had a crush on me. He crashed the party. Don't think he was necessarily invited, but anyways, nobody really liked the guy. Everyone was having fun, I guess, at that dumb party, and I went upstairs to spend some time alone, away from the crowd, because I'm like that. I'm a little bit of a lone wolf. And by the way, I think I would be so the type to just look at my future husband if we were at the party and just with one look, he and I would know, like, it's time to go, it's time to dip. I've had enough of other people's energy. Like, that'd be cool, but yeah. So, where was I? Yeah, lone wolf went to go to pee. So I went upstairs where no one was to go to the toilet, and I remember vividly him knocking on the door of a bathroom to talk to me. He pretexted that he had something important to say. So before I closed the door, actually locking it, he stood there and just opened it. I tried to close it 1,000 times, telling him I really had to go because I couldn't keep it inside no more. And the man begged me to watch me while I pee, trying to force the door open. So there was no one to protect me. I was alone upstairs at my cousin's beach house, and everyone else was downstairs, drinking, dancing. Nobody would have heard me if I screamed with that loud ass music. So that was tight. But hopefully I had, and always will have, immense strength. After multiple attempts to get to me and to beg me for his sick, twisted fantasy, if you want to call that, I slammed the door in his face. Men are funny. They know they can't fuck with me, and yet they think that I just may fold like a stupid bee. I'm a very traditional woman. I guess I'm very traditional in my own way. I like to keep my purity on the maximum level for my own mental health, for my own sake, for my own blessings. And with me, everything has to be pure. Your intentions towards me, your love, the way you express it, etc. Otherwise, I don't fuck with it. I don't post on any social media photos of me constantly. The only accounts I have which are public and where I am active are only my holy spicy chicken wing ones actually. So nobody can really find me even if they knew my name, which is Maria. Survival. The other day, I was at the airport fetching my best friend with my only other best friend. And yes, we are a group of 3 girls. It's never been seen before. Sue us, boo-hoo-hoo. Anyways, there was a middle-aged man who thought he was so damn slick at trying to take a picture of my marvelous goddess of a booty. I was enraged. And I tried to hide myself out of embarrassment because I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Because what the hell? There are so many, and I mean literally 3 out of 4 alluring women now who might post their booty from all angles everywhere around the globe on the net in tight bikinis. Like, bruh, please leave me alone. Why taking a picture of my ass in joggers? He breached my privacy. Like, just imagining him looking on my picture at home near his sleeping wife or touching himself to it, it made me puke, and I wanted to obliterate him. Survival, honey. How dare he? Does he know that years ago, while training at some French kickboxing without my bandages, my knuckles were all bleeding open because of my anger issues with the rough knitted heavy rice punching bag. It was bleeding, it was open, it was ugly. I just know that at that moment I dreamed about striking him just as much as I did during that training day. And you know what's even better? My knuckles would not even bleed this time open on his skin. It would make him and his teeth bleed. I could have destroyed him easily. Just know that I'm not your average type of woman, okay? I'm very passionate, very intense, not for the weak ones, and I want the best. I got mans scared of sliding in my DMs because they know that I ain't fooling around. I ain't playing. I want the best, baby. And if it ain't you, it's alright. It's cool. I know that what is meant to be mine will always be superior and parallel the best. Even during adversity, I stayed calm and composed. No matter how much inside it kills me not to explode and to express myself fully. But I know that sometimes when people don't want to hear you, when they don't want to understand you, they won't. Survival mode makes me go completely nuts. Which is why it's important to be gentle even if the iceberg is cold. Compassionate even when things reach you deeply to the core. And know how to keep your peace too, even when underwater. Your pain can unlock a lot of potential. Trust me. If I did, you can and will too, baby. Because, like the lunatic sprinkle of Vanilla White Fluff, everything yearns to take the light. What do you want to believe in? Is it adrenaline? When your blood rushes through your veins as you work out? Dig Out stated that the mind and body are distinct. He promoted the view that the mind can exist and persist without the body. The distinction between a person's brain and flesh is known as mind-body dualism. You never want to necessarily do the things that you want to do, like exercising your physique. But you just have to force yourself too, because that's the way you will get things done and actually enjoy doing them afterwards. You never enjoy something while starting it. You might while doing it. When I entered the gym, I never wanted to work out, but after forcing myself to go, I have this adrenaline, which at its peak, it brings me intense pleasure and satisfaction. And that makes me feel a little bit lunatic in a sense. But now I don't even have the time to go over there, as 2023 was filled with fresh new opportunities on my part. Ever since this New Year's started, I began to work. I got hired. Since the viral epidemic that is the COVID, I've quit university after getting my diploma, and I didn't continue afterwards. I started my channel and worked as an artist and graphic freelancer. But now everything has changed. My life is not as laid back luxuriously as it was. I miss it a little bit. But at the same time, I love this new adventure. I am a 3D motion artist as we speak. It's a cool title. It's very unique. I love it. I am the only one over there who's got that title in this company. Truth was, I was not even looking for a stable job. It just fell on my lap magically in December, where an acquaintance told me she needed someone to help with making videos. She didn't know my channel or skills, like a lot of people around me doesn't. It's just my closed ones, very close one, like only a few. Just maybe one, two, just maybe 3 people know about this channel. But she heard from my sibling that I love creating and editing videos. So I went to the interview. It was catastrophic. It was so funny because you could tell it was not my thing at all. I am 26 years old, and yet I'm a child. I swear to God. But I'm finally growing up, I think. I hope. Well, cut me some slack, okay? Every teenager wants to grow up so fast. And most of them look older than me. That's wild. I am baby, I am cute and pure. I just flow with life and try to heal myself day by day, so let me cope. Anyways, during the interview, the manager was like, "Qu'est-ce que t'as fait avant? So what did you do before?" And I was like, "Juste attends une petite seconde, je regarde mon CV, je vais te le dire dans une petite minute. Just wait a minute, I'll check my CV and tell you, girlfriend." I was so stressed to be in an unknown territory and yet so relaxed. It was awful. The worst, oh my god. As I hate like wearing blouses, I didn't have something professional to wear. So I wore my mom's, and I didn't know during the whole day after I saw that I was wearing it. That I was wearing it à l'envers, upside down. Jeez, my mom asked me how it went, and I was like, bruh, their head must have fallen on a rock if you accepted me. I didn't care about having the job. I liked my life before, but it was a new challenge. And I low-key, high-key love that. Plus, there is a stable income when you're an artist who paints beautiful canvases for the richest property. You can be rich for months and have no money for the others. So yeah, it's cool. I still work on my videos every time I get the chance. Sometimes there is time to spare and I can concentrate on my own art, you know? Like how I'm doing right now. It's 2:52 a.m. I woke up and I decided to continue to make my video even if I gotta work in a few hours at 8. Over there, as a 3D motion artist, I do 3D animations and create the whole videos aesthetic for brands that I actually love and wear. So great, sporty stuff. I'm very lucky and blessed. It's so crisp because the famous brands are crisp and fresh, you know? It's an industry where clothes are designed and there's a whole factory and everything. It's huge. The whole process is made there. We only export to America, France, and South Africa. Last time I made a video for an American trademark which make well-known baseball caps. It's awesome. I never saw myself in the fashion industry, but they love me here. Ain't gonna lie, they love my work and it's very different content compared to my channel. It's all 3D and professional. Here it's a passion project, it's art, it's me. After almost 3 months over there now, I'm slowly getting to make my own turf there. I decorated my desk and everything. The head of my department, the acquaintance who hired me, she was like, "You're like a little cute mouse, but also a bulldozer full of energy." So yeah, I'll be okay. I think she imagines me to be like a little mouse on that little thingy. Un marteau-piqueur, I don't know how to say it in English. I'll put a picture. But maybe she imagines me on that, a cute little mouse, on that thing, all day, just working. What's cool is that they even missed me when I fell sick weeks ago. I'm happy and grateful I have a team with 2 nice ladies to promote the brand's clothes through the 3D lens. We are badass. My identity has a new trait now. Sometimes I take the company's van in the morning. I said to my 2 best friends over FaceTime that it was such a peasant thing to do. Of course, I am joking. Don't take it too hard. If you take the bus to school or whatnot. I never did before, and it was my first time doing so. It was my first time taking a van. They said They would have never imagined me in a van too, and it was funny. But nonetheless, I feel like destiny will somehow put you where you're supposed to be. Like it's written in the stars type thing. Of course, if you want something or someone, fight for it if they are worth your energy and time. And if you don't act wacko, you have to act. But also know that when you're pure, it rains, it pours with blessings. And this year didn't start well emotionally, honestly. I had demons to deal with concerning my past and loved ones. I was catapulted to a new version of myself. I was hurt. I cried for days on end ever since 2023 began. I'm a wreck inside. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I'm only working, that's all. I'm trying to act like a grown-up. But whether or not your closed ones break your heart, life is full of bullshit anyways, and darkness too. What if destiny leads us to an identity which we lose ourselves in through the protection, the trauma, and the hurt and everything? See, since 2023 started, I was still sad about Christmas and New Year's Eve somehow of 2022. It's like I was so excited, and I told my dad to cut a tree in the woods, a big one that would touch even the ceiling. And not in an illegal way also. By the way, if my future husband is hearing that, I would like you to know that each Christmas, even if you want to have fake Christmas trees, I like to have real Christmas trees, because those pine trees scent are exquisite, honey. You know? So you'll have to go and cut one for me in the woods. Illegally, even if you have to. No, just kidding. If a CIA agent is hearing that, I didn't say nothing. I said don't do it illegally. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, I was excited. I got my tree. I wrapped all my presents with beautiful gift wrap. And still, in 2022, it felt like something was missing. So it felt like nothing felt beautiful or special at the end, because it was due maybe to the people surrounding me while celebrating, some of them. I felt numb and sad to a point where I knew I was alone deep down, and it's the worst feeling, because you're like, being alone is one thing. I love that. But being surrounded by people who makes you feel alone, it's different. Like I'm the only one excited about it each year. This year sucks so badly, honestly, and yet I'm changing my whole reality one step at a time. But yeah, sometimes things that happen, little details that people don't take in account because of them not being compassionate, makes me go sour. It makes me go numb. So yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm the bad guy because I'm the only one who express myself, in here. Being the artistic one, being the sensitive one, It's tiring. Like I want others to open themselves up to me a little bit more sometimes. And yeah, sometimes you could be a bad guy by affiliation. You know, like Snoop Dogg said in Coach Snoop. Association by affiliation, he said. In this series, he helps young kids to stay out of drugs and gangs to inspire them in pursuing football. I love seeing that. He also said that it's hard to get rid of that jacket, and sometimes evil come only from pains and struggle, you know? Like I'm not evil, I'm just trying to get my head out of the water. But that does not mean that I think that people see me as the bad guy sometimes because they don't understand me, or they don't understand the depth of my needs. And you know, that doesn't but in reality I'm not bad, you know? I might actually be the kindest. But that does not mean that the kind is not strong because I cry, or that there is not 10 times more suffering in my life because I'm kind, or because I express myself. So I might be a bad guy somehow, but I'm not. You can hurt as a motherfucker like me and still stay nice and polite to others. You can be the bad guy like me to the eyes of others, if you strive to be a better version of yourself every day, and if you do the right thing behind the back of those who count on you, and everyone else. I have a presumption labeled the lunatic sprinkle of Vanilla White Fluff, where I believe that every dramatis personae with white hair or something else, their identity is so powerful. I love it. It screams through their skin. I can relate to them on certain levels, honestly. The bad guys. Because no one understands them. Talang from Kung Fu Panda. So innocent. He always trained to achieve a scroll. He always made his master proud since he was found as an orphan cub. He's dramatic and so damn skilled. He went loco when he couldn't get what he wanted, as he knew he deserved it, as he worked for it. He felt empty when being refused of his due after all the hard work he had put in. Snowball, cutest rabbit in the curb. Yet, a cutthroat little one. He is the leader of a mafia wannabe gang. He got deeply wounded inside ever since he got abandoned. He turned his pain into power and fierceness. His identity is dope. Does he have white hair? Yes, he does. That's the lunatic sprinkle of Vanilla White Fluff theory of mine. Now, Griffith, if you haven't seen or read Berserk, it's your loss. The individuality he embodies is hated from everyone, and yet, damn, I love that character. Don't hate me for saying that, and if you do, then I don't care. You're mean anyways. The other night, my best friend was at home and asked me what was the scary thing I sculpted and why I did it. It was a behelit, and if you don't know, well, in the world of Berserk, this thing opens the door to the underworld. Let me check. Okay, so behelits are the keys used to open the gate between the human world and the abyss, basically. So, in my head, when she said to me why I did it, I was like, well, because it symbolizes the end of the whole freaking pain in the world someone had ever felt. He did some very bad things, Griffith, which I did not support at all. I won't explain much about this story of Berserk, but Griffith was the leader of a band of a falcon mercenary group, and by his side he acquired Guts, the only man who made him forget about his dream. The love between these two is pretty uncommon. Like, I would say that they yearn for each other, and yet not as brothers, not as lovers, not even as friends, as their friendship started to fall apart after Guts left and stopped fighting by Griffith's side. Griffith eventually got depressed and lost his whole identity because Guts left. And Guts left because he wanted to be the equal of Griffith and have dreams of his own. But what is super heartbreaking is that he never saw or listened hard enough to know that he was the only one who truly mattered to Griffith in a sense. Like, Griffith saw from the start that Guts was so damn different and awesomely talented with the sword in a raw, cynical way. He is so primitive and beautiful, intuitive. Casca, a girl the mercenary leader rescued who was like his right arm, saw that. She saw how much Griffith truly loved Guts. She was so jealous of that. Between Guts and Griffith, there was no real communication. But anyways, Griffith's destiny was to become Femto, a demon, a version of himself, a name which is complete chaos. Yes, he still has white hair probably, and yes, he's demented. But I feel like a lot of fans hate him for his true identity that has been revealed due to his destiny, but I feel like he was just so much more than that, or simply than what they reduce him to be in the end. Just by watching the anime Berserk, for example, you can see an opening sequence numerous times, starting with the saying, "Is destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental, I don't know how to say this. Is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law?" It somehow clutches a deeper prospect of a story, one that is wild, untamed, berserk in itself. I love Griffith's character before transitioning into pure evil, mainly because I felt his pain. I do firmly believe that a lot of Berserk lovers just overlook Griffith and look down on him because his identity is not as hot-tempered or primal as Guts, which is seen as more trustworthy usually. Griffith is cold and composed most of the times. He can easily be perceived as manipulative and deceitful, even when he doesn't necessarily calculate each and every of his moves on the chessboard as much as people believe he does. He didn't choose to be an apostle, he was meant to be one in the tale. He didn't have the behelit with him at some point, and yet it came to him when he was at his most vulnerable, when he was about to kill himself from all the horrible pain he had to go through. A behelit gets activated when its owner suffers from their lowest point in their lives. His companions in the band of a hawk knew that they were what they were getting into. They were ready to fight and die for him. They constantly relied on him and submerged as more victorious each time. And some people are like, "Oh, Griffith never cared for them. He was just using them." Well, not really, if you think about it. His identity, especially his role identity, had to be one of leaders. He was a man, he had a dream, and that means not getting too attached to them, as you know, and they know that you have to fight to death. Just try to walk a mile in the men's space boots for a minute. You lead to win. You guide multiple men to survive. You know you could lose them during any battle. Will you or not get involved with them as much as you can just to lose them? Just to feel a more atrocious pain each time they could just get their necks snapped in a battle? Even I, for Christ's sake, have to repress most of my emotions on a daily basis just because I get scared of expressing them. Trauma, survival, and identity. I don't know, I feel like Griffith is a very well-written character. He's very complex, sophisticated, and intriguing. And a lot of people know that, at least, and admit to that. But Guts and everybody else have killed and ended several lives themselves too. Let's not forget about that. Berserk always aroused a lot of interrogations within me. I'm like, in the end, is it all truly written in the stars, or can we alter our reality whenever? Are we meant to have a particular identity and set of actions preordained by an entity already? I do believe that we can create our reality however we want to. You just got to have the guts to do so. See what I did there again? This is why some people are like, be careful for what you wish for. It might just as well come true. Or, with great power comes a great electricity bill in Griffith's case. For some reason, I perceive Griffith to be nothing without Guts, and Guts being nothing without Griffith. The drive, the passion, the hatred, the love, everything. To the majority of fans, this connection is portrayed as only ownership, control, but they both lose control in the presence of one and another. As I said, I do not see it as a friendship, a romantic relationship, or even as kinship. I see it as something so much more deeper than all of that. It cuts deep like insanity. But I like to imagine the character of Griffith while being in jail, while suffering, thinking of revealing to Guts this. It's a quote from Tao. The absence of your existence on this mortal plane fills me with nothing but grief and sorrow. I can no longer look at the sky, for it feels like the universe mocks me by showing me the stars that collectively only have a fraction of the light you brought into my life. The thing about identity is that you could be someone completely different from the pain you go through. The matter evolves like a butterfly. It's like a butterfly effect. But the core, your soul, is somehow bound to something. To who you truly are meant to be, or to who you truly want to be in the end. Because you can make anything happen. Remember that. It's not a religious thing necessarily, but traditionally speaking, I do believe that sins, immoral actions, could drag others and yourself to a pitch of frequency that doesn't align with your true identity, with your soul. It feels like some could lose it due to that, like Griffith did, He was just a little boy who dreamed, and yet he knew how much this meant, what he had to sacrifice. He lost it, he lost his soul. So, yeah, last time I will talk about this persona on this podcast, but I screenshotted something that could illustrate what I'm trying to say about actions without virtues and pain and identity. I saw this comment and I thought it was interesting to show a little bit more of how I perceive Griffith's point of view too. So someone with a Japanese name, I don't know what it is, said that I just realized something. Griffith and perhaps the rest of the Godhead were once amazing people who were truly one of a kind, and only became a great evil because they were genuine messiahs who were betrayed like martyrs in religion, but became devils because they accepted the idea of evil in humanity to escape from this despair. They were too good of a person, but did bad things because they know they were human. But since humanity rejected this goodness they brought to the world, they betrayed it. This is just a grandeur idea because you truly see something that is pure evil only because it was something that was pure good, but it was betrayed by mankind's basic instinct to sin. From Griffith's perspective of view, Guts was proud enough of an individual to leave him. Julius, jealous of his teacher. A king wrathful for what he has done to him. Casca was lustful to Guts. The people are gluttonous for more of Griffith's glorious victories. All the band is too slothful to chase their own dreams and depend on him. I think this was the grand idea that Miura didn't want to reveal too soon because it was too grand, but too early to reveal. I like this perspective. I really like this comment when I saw that because I feel like someone kind of like portrayed what I thought about Griffith in a sense. I know that some actions are unjustifiable, but we shouldn't forget that he's only a fictional character too. And this story is Berserk. Anyways, I feel like sometimes me too, as I said, I could alter parts of my own form, parts of my own soul because I feel betrayed by people, which is normal. But I can relate to this character in some ways because I saw the purity of his soul and how shattered he was by it. And he wanted this dream so badly that it shows how identity is very complex. This is why somehow it should be cherished. Don't lose yourself in others. If you do so only for your own dignity. Sometimes I ask myself how some men or women or whoever, how they could sleep with so many partners. When honestly, I feel like it's a tragedy. Because when exchanging energy while being intimate, you soak up some pieces of that person, be it good or bad. Even if it's platonic and there's no feeling involved. So how do people do that? I don't understand it. Sorry, but I don't understand if you are like that. I think you could subconsciously accumulate the sadness of others through a much more physical mean in intimacy where you feel it out of nowhere and you don't know what you're doing. I respect other people tastes and whatnot, but it would feel like a nightmare to me to let anyone inside of me, literally. Like, you can see this theme being there during this whole podcast also about, sins like greed. I'm talking about greed because it could be a part of your identity that doesn't serve you right. Like No Face, who is like munching on people and literally absorbing their energies. I do believe that sex is the same thing somehow, and that you are not aware of it in some way or the other. Or that a lot of people are not aware of that, but I do believe that you should be careful with any of your partners or whatnot, if you have any. And like No Face, who consumed those bodies, or like the beast who consumed those girls, who became more bloodthirsty because of that. You don't need to consume in order to kind of like reject more energy and project more energy or a more powerful energy. You're okay by your own. Your identity could be powerful enough to not need others to stain it in a way with their impurities, with their own insecurities, with their own pain. Especially if those pain doesn't serve you. This is what I'm trying to say. It's like, I believe a very subtle way to gradually lose yourself is to rely on an identity, a design of yourself in which you are too open to energies that aren't even heartwarming or loving in the first place. I feel like this is the reason why, if there's a little teenage girl or even a guy or whatever age you are, whoever hears this, preserve yourself, your energy. Like me, I don't be doing nothing, in all honesty. And I recommend anyone to take their time for yourself. We're in a society that is full of pain, and everyone is trying to simply live and survive. Take your time for yourself. Know what you want. Like me, I know exactly whatever it is that I want, and if I feel like this is not the best for me, then eventually I'll change my mind after a few months or years, but I know what I want, and I don't want to settle for less. I respect what I want. I know that I want the best. Respect yourself. Maybe you will feel like absolute she after giving in to your lust or greed, rather than feeling pleasure. Who knows? Cherish yourself. It's not even religious. It's for your mental health and your own well-being, your identity. You got to treat yourself as a sacred jaded palace. Tyler, the creator, had some interesting point of views on identity. The link will be in my description about what he said. But to summarize the important key, it's that you shouldn't judge. If you don't judge, there would be no more hate in your heart. You should learn to be comfortable with yourself. Believe in yourself even when others don't. You know what you got to do, and you will just do it. No number of self-help books can help in the end, as Manson said also. This too will be linked in my bio. It's fascinating. I love how an author like him, who writes self-help books, admits actually that they are all wacky and repetitive, and that you won't learn anything new if you keep reading them. You can read a few, but if you don't act accordingly, and you just read and consume information without action, then you won't get what you need. It's not even rocket science, it's math. If you're as sensitive as me, if you cry numerous times behind closed walls while acting all proud without anyone knowing what you go through, I am here for you if you feel alone. If you have anxious attachment style, this might be uncomfortable to hear. But have you ever said to yourself, I never feel like I'm good enough. Anyone could just leave me when they get bored, or if I do something wrong. I always wonder if I am annoying them. I feel like they might not love me. Did you grow up with parents who were neglectful? Maybe one abandoned you physically, or even if they were there, maybe they weren't present morally, or they weren't supportive, dealing with your virtuous development. They could be loving, but they could have made mistakes in understanding you. They're only mere humans too. They're kids trying to raise kids. But maybe you, if you do or get a partner, you will feel like they don't really care about you because in the past, your problems and emotions were disregarded as unimportant or an annoyance. Sometimes every little thing is part of your own identity, everything that it is that you go through. Maybe you never gain a secure sense of self because you learned from a young age that your parents' or siblings' emotions were more important than your own. So you might be alone coping with everything, learning to survive ever since you were little. So now you're stuck in a pattern that put other people's needs above your own, because you constantly fear that you exist as a flawed emotional being. You're not flawed, you're so beautiful. Trust me. Maybe you are more attracted to avoidant and distant partners because subconsciously it feels comfier, and as it reminds you of your childhood and household, where even the truth might have been repressed. Maybe now you've grown up to not trust easily too. So it feels like, it might be sad to think about, but sometimes the best secure sacred jade palace that you might have is your own self, your body, your mind, your spirit, your soul, your heart. A home is not a house. A home is not 4 walls of cold brick put together and a strong structure. Home can be someone. Home can be yourself. For yourself, for your own sake. To transcend even that feeling of survival, but to thrive. Older people are not wiser. And younger people are not more stupider. And well, people's toxic traits tend to be the opposite of a love language, apparently. If you don't ask for help like me, it means you care for acts of service from others to show that they love you. If you keep isolating yourself like me, it means you love quality time with a loved one. If you're into avoidance like me, it means you crave physical touch from your other half. If you do some impulsive shopping like me again, you might treasure the gifts that are given to you from a special someone. If you go silent mode when you're hurt or sad like me, then you might need words of affirmation. Now, if you need it all like me, good luck. You're insane Cocoa Puffs too. May you find that special someone who will make you feel complete and soaked in serenity through their voice, even through the rough and tough times, love. But don't be too nice also, because I am way too nice sometimes. So protect yourself. You might get hurt. If you love someone and they don't act right by your side when you're in a committed relationship with them, as an example, when they get a good grasp on you and your life, when you're investing time and energy in believing in them when no one else does, just let them talk to whoever they want to. Let them text, follow, or call whoever they want to hang out with, but just respect yourself. Give them space, and if they want to mess it up, girl or boy, or whatever you want to be, or whoever you are, or my little alien, then they messed it up with the realest person they'll ever meet. See, I think that there's a dichotomy within the forces field in our souls, the good and the bad, the pure or the unholy. It makes me wonder, is every label, which I suppose to define who we are as humans, really it? Like times and times, anthropoids scream, shout and defend themselves whenever they feel attacked about anything, not wanting to put labels on who they are, yet being a whole new level of paradox by just stating who they are with words and idioms. Therefore, labeling themselves to remove preconceived labels. How shallow and yet cute are we truly? Words and art might be the only true ways to actually express ourselves, to reveal what we believe to be part of our identity. And yet it feels like it's never enough, doesn't it? I am sure that this world will never make sense to me in the end. So guess what? What did you think I'd do about that? Well, I simply and graciously gave up on trying to comprehend life's absurdity. I just kind of learned to embrace it. The mockery of it all, how we are in the end just raised like pigs to slaughter, because somehow we are born to die. If you are in a quest to understand yourself better, maybe do not venture too long in the realms of another's being shadow, or else you might be branded as a fallacy. One of the first advice I could give to anyone would be to follow your heart. Yes, you will get bruises that way, but you will come out stronger, prouder, and closer than anyone else to being true to yourself. Trust me. Be comfortable in your sacred jaded palace. Treat your identity with love and respect as you would with a best friend. It made me go nuts a little bit, but now, after years of trying to heal myself, I've been the realist for sticking to my own values and moral for years, not letting prejudiced beliefs to form boundaries within my insignificant life. But I want you to hear what I've just uttered, and to tell me what might have been a mistake of my part in that sentence. You got it? The words, insignificant life, shouldn't even be in the same phrase. No existence should be seen as trifling or treated as such. I've been depressed, and it's something that never really goes away, but if you don't put a value on your life, your identity, if you don't try to raise the level a little bit, then how will it be valuable? And that is the first thing that I personally believe was my key to understand who I might be to my core, to my bones. I strongly believe that aliveness is consequential, beautiful, and if you dare to tell me otherwise, I would not even argue. Because I know that everything which surrounds us in space is not so easy to digest and take in. I do not cherish my life as much as I would want to, as I tend to deal with my own demons, but a part of me knows who I am and fell in love with me due to the fact that my heart and soul are both relevant and so vibrant that it resonates in nearly all of my actions. As I said, I'm very passionate. I call the fragment of me who fell in love with myself Vito, my alter ego. And if you don't know about him, well, I've explained in more details this personality of mine in the previous podcast. He's my protector during my darkest times. He's the one who keeps me alive. He's my masculine energy who fell hard for my softest feminine side. I am the Bonnie to his Clyde. He's my mine, as I said, and Maria. I am the heart of my vessel. I didn't know of it at first, but after I looked at his name to my altar, Vito, it somehow made sense to my own subconscious. It was so random. One day I just had an alter ego and his name was Vito. Vito means life. I was given an existence without my permission, but it felt like my own life. Vito desired to be part of me, so as I could cease to feel like everything was just happening to me. Instead, it was occurring for me. I found it to be very deep, as if my viability, my existence itself was crazy about me for trying over and over again to stay alive, to get back on my 2 feet, and to keep surviving on my own, alone. But life doesn't want me to feel alone anymore, thanks to Vito. God, I don't know why I feel like I'm such an intense being without even trying. But it's the weirdest thing on earth. I do not mind being the psychotic lunatic of the crew. I do not really care to be the bad guy. I do not really care if you don't understand me. I just need you to feel my energy. I just want you to communicate with me and to bask in its presence, bask in my energy. For it's something Vito believes to be one of the prettiest things to ever exist on this planet. This is the reason why significance is outstanding, just as much as creation. Give meaning to your identity. Work with your guts and pure intuitions. Be gentle. Be patient. I know it did take a while to love myself, but I own it completely thanks to my alter ego Vito now. It's as if like I was shielded. My flaws and insecurities start to vanish a little bit. I strive to grow and nurture myself as much as I can, and I hope that you do too. I hope that you nurture yourself like I would nurture you if I was by your side. Now I hope somehow this podcast helped you in some way or the other to get some answers. To summarize a little bit what we've been through together, roughly, what I meant by the delirious Maneki Neko of absurdity, it is that a Maneki Neko is usually a lucky cat, a greeting cat. And what I meant by that is that Life is absurd, and you could greet anything into your life, but you should know whatever it is, because a lot of things could make you go delirious, and also that you could get lucky. If you're aware that you need to strive to be a better version of yourself, and you already are lucky. If you know that life is absurd, then you're already lucky. With my second chapter, the leopard, the lion, and the she-wolf, what I meant is that even though if we're not religious, or even if you are, immorality is something. It exists, and it has consequences. And our actions, no matter how trivial or not, they don't necessarily define you, but to someone else they might. So be careful about that, about the dangers of that, for you gotta protect your identity. With the part of Le Cheval de Troie, what I meant was that life comes with surprises, that everything that is inside of you and that is going to be projected out could be like perceived differently by other people, and yet it could like lead you to some sort of victory or not. And no matter whatever it is, like you should plan and know whatever it is that you truly want, because there are people who could live years without do anything substantial to their own being. It's as if like they don't help themselves in a sense, you know? So help yourself. Build those little soldiers inside of you, the courage that you need. Take your time, and yet know where you're going to get whatever it is that you want. Just don't be treacherous. Some say that fair play always, but foul play when needed. We all know how it might go wrong. As I said, if you're pure, everything will be a blessing for you. So, as Le Cheval de Troie, you gotta be a little bit careful about everything that your identity might embody. You got to fight for yourself. And what I meant with, in the clear quartz iceberg, I talked about Haku, Shihiros, and the river, and the theme of water, and how I believe that it's so beautiful, the scenery. But what I meant by the clear quartz is that sometimes things can get clearer when they shatter. Sometimes you can recognize what's yours, as if you had past lives, as if you had a déjà vu, as if you know and you already know what's good for you or not. And you know the truth. And you know the purity, the clear quartz thing. Like this, it means everything. Like you already know how imperfectly perfect you are. Be comfortable with yourself. That's key. And finally, what I meant by the lunatic sprinkle of Vanilla White Fluff, it's simply that there's a lot of pain that can alter your identity, or even your destiny, but somehow it matters also whatever it is that you expect from other people and who it is you expect them from. And it's not necessarily a religious thing, as I repeated myself in that, but It's a tragedy to be powerful and not vulnerable. That's what I meant with this chapter, in a sense. It's very deep, but I hope that you understand me. I really wish you do. I hope that I make sense to you. So I hope, that somehow this podcast helped you in some way or the other to get some answers. My piranha. And I just wanted to read a quote by Achille to end this video. Thank you for watching and listening. I love you so much. And especially if you watch this entire thing. I hope I didn't confuse you or anything. Know that to me you matter, and to a lot of other people's too. And you matter, and not literally. See what I did there again? And never play on words. You matter. I would recognize you in total darkness. Were you deaf and I mute? I would recognize you in another lifetime entirely. In different bodies, different times. And I would love you in all of this, until the very last star in the sky burn into oblivion